is up, everybody, and welcome to the Monday Night Football Pre-Lock Show for Week 14. I'm your host, HeadChopper. As always, joined by somebody here this Monday. It's Beer Makers. Beer, how did Week 14 treat you on the main slate there, man?
Well, when you put up well over 200 points and it's not even close to doing, I did okay. Probably a slightly above week, but not enough. Josh Allen had some, didn't have enough, had, a lot of the right pieces, but that's the game. You hear the people, if I only had this, and this, I would be a millionaire. Well, kudos to the people that did. Very high scoring week, as we know, a lot of fun. But yeah, Josh Allen, just an unbelievable performance. How'd it go for you?
Yeah, not good. Well, it's weird because I'm looking at a lineup with Darnold and the double stack that you needed,
Yep.
and Charbonnet, and it still just wasn't even enough to even sniff anything good. Like it's just the way it is on a week like that. That was a weird week, but that's why we get to turn the page, man, and move on. Now we're at week 14, so when you start to feel like, okay, the season-long playoffs are right here, like right around the corner now for most leagues. Best ball stuff, regular season coming to an end pretty much after this week. So you get the playoff format for that. When you start to feel all that stuff, the season's winding down, man. We don't have very many more of these Monday night pre-lock shows left. So I don't know, man. Get it in while you can, guys, because it'll be gone. And when it's gone, boy, we wish it was back already. And it's a rough off season, but we don't have a super sexy game tonight, standings wise. But we could, if you're into good offense and bad defense, this could be a good game for you. So give me your general thoughts right off the bat on two teams that still think they could, we can win out and make the playoffs, but realistically, that's not going to happen. But they had higher expectations coming into the year. Talk to me about this game in general.
Oh, we got Eric Johnson here in the chat talking about the Simpsons, and he's excited about that more than the game. So kind of shows you, but like you said, record-wise, sure, these teams are quote-unquote still in the hunt, still on the graphic, but we are going to get some offense in this game. We see that total up at 50 and a half. Two good offenses, like you said, two bad defenses. So, yes, not the greatest game on paper, but fantasy-wise, I do this one should be a lot of fun, a lot of scoring. As far as spreads, totals go, I do think this goes over the total. Cincinnati has not been able to stop anybody. Dallas's defense been playing better, but we know the Bengals are going to put up points. As far as the spread, I'm leaning Dallas. This one keeps creeping down. It was up at 6, 5.5. Now we're down to 4.5 at most shops. Key indicator. So better to get it at 6, even at 4.5. I think Dallas can compete, potentially win this game. But I do expect fireworks in this one, so it makes for a fun fantasy night.
Yeah, I mean, ideally for me, I'd like to see Cincinnati come in here and just put them out of their misery, right? And let's get rid of all this. Maybe Mike McCarthy can come back talk.
Right.
Let's just get rid of all of it and put a squash to it real quick. Hopefully, Cincy can do that. But I'm with you. I think it's a good game. I think there's some points here. So, guys, we're driven by the chat. So if you're in chat and you're watching, please fire off those questions. That's what we're going to answer. We got about 23 minutes till we get out of here. Right up against that time frame, we'll do our plums, fill it in the plums play of the night. Each of us will give our favorite pick tonight. And in the meantime, we're going to do some SimLabs stuff. At some point, we're going to put together a little prop parlay for you, because that's the new thing, man. The more I do
props.
Oh yeah, it's fun stuff, man.
I don't really even I still mess with totals and spreads, but I would say 80 to 85% of my betting now is props. It's just so tied to fantasy. It makes sense. Sure, total spreads are fun, but those are so locked in. It's tough to find an edge on those. Props have gotten tougher. Props back in the day, back when we were doing the old podcast years ago, much easier back then, but I still think there's much more edge on the props. So glad we're throwing that in.
Well, the thing about the props is I get this weird kind of feeling about them, like when I used to do DFS back in the day, when there wasn't all the optimizers
Right.
and great projections, and everybody's now spot on with everything, and it's really tough to gain an edge. I can look at some props and I can still feel pretty darn good about using my own head and putting the stuff in, and it's pretty successful. So that's why I like them, man. I don't, it's about, I don't even a
It's
fraction.
old school. We're
It,
both from the old school. When
and
no offense to the Sims, and all of this is great. It's evolution of the game. But back in the day, we kind of figured it out on our own. Pen and paper and newspapers, things like that. I'll date myself
yeah,
a little bit here, but I hear what you're saying. Again,
and,
I agree.
and
I think there's an edge there.
and it takes about a fraction of the time to research your DFS lineups,
Oh yeah.
man. It's like nothing. So, yeah, Cos Campbell, our favorite Yankees fan here in chat.
Oh,
I give him a hard time. He gives me a hard time, but he's saying Soto is a bum. Yeah, I don't know about that, man, but he did what he was always gonna do.
Will he be a bum though? No, now he gets paid. He's still going to be good, but
That's
a
a good question.
15-year contract. We know at some point, the wheels start falling off. So maybe he gives you a few years, or does he? I got paid. I'm good. I'll hit my 30 home runs. I'll hit 280, and you're paying $50 million a year for that.
Listen, I hate to. I think I said this a while back to Mr. Campbell there, man. I said Soto was going to be gone. You could listen. Soto has good friends on the Mets. Francisco Lindor is his best friend. He was always going to go there, man. No matter what, he was always going to go there. So, Dean joining us in chat with Dean, we should do some kind of clue thing for the Showdown pre-log. It would be a lot easier than the one I promise you mine would make sense, but let's see. Let's get to that first question. Who's your favorite contrarian captain tonight, Beer?
I'm going to say I think Cincinnati is going to be the majority of the captains. So we'll put that. We'll talk more captains. Obviously, we like guys on the Cincinnati side, but I'm going to go to the Dallas side here. I'm going to say Jake Ferguson is my favorite contrarian captain, mostly on DraftKings. We know the volume is going to be there. We'll get to some of the numbers. Cincinnati really bad at guarding the tight end. Cooper Rush loves to throw to the tight end. So he's a guy that can rack up the receptions you're looking for, has that upside around the red zone to add the touchdowns to it, and price is not prohibitive. So I'll say Jake Ferguson is my contrarian captain play tonight.
Man, I like that a lot. And so, I'm not saying that was going to be my plums play of the night.
I have two. I'm feeling double plums tonight. So, they're hanging. So I got two.
Your plums are hanging. That happens with age too, man. But
that's it, man.
Let me see. I just missed it. I forget who asked it, but somebody just asked, would you play Khalil Herbert in captain to be able to squeeze in the other?
No.
Like Beer, man. Like
no.
I'm not really.
I'm seeing some Zeke too. And what are we asking for out of these guys? Okay, they find the end zone on a handful of carries. Maybe they catch a few passes. Is that enough to get to a captain score that you need to win? And who are you doing that for? I get it, the Cincinnati side, but are you trying to jam in CeeDee Lamb? It just doesn't make sense for me to go that route tonight. Don't think you have to.
Yeah, I love a good cheap captain. I
Absolutely.
really do. But there's a point in my analysis of lineups and running them and picking them and choosing them, whatever, putting them together, where if your projection is below like 5 points, you're not even in consideration, not even close. And so I'm seeing some of these guys all around the industry with 2 and 3 point projections. I can't do that, man. So that's not the way. I mean, if you want a cheap one, the man just gave you about as cheap as you can go with some real upside. That's Ferguson. Let's see. I'm seeing some stuff here going on. I'm Lake Carolina guy, FanDuel guy. Let's get our FanDuel stuff out of the way real quick. Your favorite single entry MVP, and then in the large field, some low-owned flex for FanDuel.
I'm going to say T. Higgins is my favorite over there. Again, Chase, Burrow, fine, but I think T. Higgins, we look at the numbers side by side, he's been the better of the two receivers here. It's take nothing away from Jamar Chase. Both guys are incredible. Both guys will be a part of my player pool, but I expect Higgins to be a little less owned. He's a little cheaper. So not on FanDuel, people want to jam in, those high-end guys and just kind of go down the list. So makes you a little bit different over there. So single entry wise, I would go that route because I expect to see a lot of Burrow and captain, Chase and captain. potentially even some CeeDee Lamb on the other side. So I think Higgins could be a tick below in the ownership, give you the same level of upside that those guys have.
Yeah. So Lip says Chase Brown looks nice at captain. And I'll say this. When we get a big slate, 10 games plus on a main slate, I can't go in there and look at every single correlation and all this other stuff for every single team on every game. But when we get a showdown, like a Monday like this, I got time. I can do it, So I like to dig up some stuff. Digging up some stuff tonight. I was shocked at Chase Brown. First of all, taking all the snaps, getting all the work. You don't have to worry about any of that. But I'm looking at, for showdowns, what's the correlation here? Let's say Joe Burrow has a good game tonight. What's the correlation with these guys? Chase Brown doesn't miss a beat no matter what. Joe Burrow has a bad game. Chase Brown has a good game. Rock solid game. Joe Burrow has a 35-point game, massive draft. Chase Brown's right there, rock solid game. He does not fall off for anything. Chase Brown is as rock solid of a captain as you can play tonight. If you want that, that's definitely right on board with that.
Yeah, I agree. My first build was a Chase Brown captain, so I completely agree. I think both running backs are very intriguing. Not often do we get quote-unquote workhorses here. They're both getting the majority of the touches. Both guys are capable in producing in the passing game, and both these quarterbacks will check it down to them. So a lot of paths to success here. So I like Brown. I like Dowdle on the other side, too. He's kind of taking that backfield over. I think it's perfect game script. And again, the pass catching on DraftKings, just so valuable out of the running back position. To get two guys, two of my favorites tonight for sure. And I love Brown more as a captain. I think Dowdle could fit that bill as well.
Speaking of Dowdle, two guys, Justin and Soflo in chat, both bring up Dowdle as captains. What's your thoughts?
It's not my favorite, just looking, at projections, things like that. But if you want to flip the build, like we talked about, everyone's going to be on a Cincinnati captain. He has enough volume. If we're expecting Dallas to compete and the spread is not off by that much, only 4.5, high total, a guy getting that much work and a quarterback that, they're letting him throw a little bit, but let's be honest, Chop, they want to hide him if they can. They don't want Cooper Rush unleashing the ball 50 times all over the yard. So if they can simplify things, this defense continues to play well. That bodes well for Dowdle. So if I'm going that route, it's probably Dowdle with the Dallas defense is the way I'm starting that lineup. Then you start attacking those Cincinnati pass catchers and Joe Burrow. Would
you consider punting? Certainly not in the captain, but in the flex with Hunter Lepke.
No. If anything, I'd probably go Zeke. Lepke can contribute in the passing game, but his role is just so limited. If you're going to go that route, touchdown, couple catches, I think Zeke's the better way to go. So I won't be playing any old Hunter tonight.
Dean wants to know if you're watching the Simpsons alternative broadcast tonight.
I knew Dean would be on the Simpsons. I'll dabble with it. It's kind of like the Manning cast. Some weeks I enjoy it, and some weeks it gets too much, and I'd rather just watch the main broadcast. So I'll check it out, see what it is, and likely end up back on the main broadcast. So old man speaking here.
Do you prefer the main broadcast or the Manning broadcast?
It depends who's on. Some weeks they got some entertaining guests. It's funny. It's informative. And sometimes it's, it's just a couple guys talking like we are. I mean, so I kind of go back and forth. I end up more on the main broadcast, but I'll check in on the Mannings and see who's on there.
Let's see here. Any more questions? Blah, blah, blah. Dallas defense. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think that could be rough. But we'll ask you this one. If you were going to play a defense tonight, would you rather have a weaker Cincy defense against Cooper Rush, or would you rather have Dallas, which has pass rushers, but much stronger offense they're going against? Which one of those weaknesses?
I would probably go Dallas. Just there's going to be more opportunities to make plays, especially if they can get out to any kind of lead or get the game competitive. Burrow's going to be putting the ball up in the air more. I think Rush, a lot safer throws. They're going to give him. That's why I like Ferguson. I think they're going to do their best to limit what he has to do. So Dallas has been the better of the two defenses. They're at home. And if I'm going to do it, again, it's probably with a Rico Dowdle pairing that he's getting it done. The old school correlation. I know that one doesn't hold as much water anymore, but that's the way I would play the Dallas defense. But both, I'll sprinkle in. Both are not extreme targets for me tonight on the defensive side.
Yeah, it's a GPP on DraftKings. The last piece in. Would you rather have Hudson or Yoshivas?
I will go with Yoshivas in that one. Not super enthralled with all those guys, or either of those guys, I should say. But I'll go Yoshivas. He's been good to me this season. So the problem is neither of them see a lot of targets. Cincinnati, I know, loves to use multiple tight ends, which is great, but Gesicki's still the main guy there, even with all on the injured reserve. Hudson will get some work, but I think it's Yoshivas for me.
GR Salceda says he went to the Cowboys game a couple weeks ago. I'm supposing he's saying Turpin looks faster than everybody else.
He does.
I've been surprised when you look at. He kind of doesn't. It doesn't feel like it, and he's never had it in his career. But when you look at his game logs, they're actually trying to get him the ball in the passing game a little bit. How much interest do you have in that?
I have some. I worry with Brandon Cooks back, how many snaps is he going to play? But they have done a good job of designing plays for him, whether they're end around, short little targets. We've seen him take a slant to the house. So I know we got some captain questions as well on him. I would rather go that route than some of the other cheap captains that have been brought up. We'll say that. If you're going to go that route, we know the upside's there. Is it thin? Is it risky? Of course it is. Anytime you're taking a captain under 5,000, it's risky. It's thin. That's the point of it, though. It's going to be low owned. He's got more upside than anybody down there by far. So you could take a zero there. He could take one or two to the house. That's the definition of a risky tournament play. He certainly fits the bill.
King Govan asking if anyone is using Brandon Cooks as a captain. What do you think about BC?
I landed on one lineup where I just kind of, let me put my favorite guys in the flex and see kind of the reverse build. A lot of people start with their captain. Sometimes I like these 3, 4, 5 guys. Let me see what that leaves at captain, and it ended up being Brandon Cooks. So in that sense, I did land on one. So I think there's some viability to it. Just again, upside. Are they going to rip the ball all over the field? No, but they may have to. We're talking about being very rosy here about Dallas, but let's be honest, this could turn into a Cincinnati routes him, and Rush is throwing a ton. So he's looked good. We know he has big playability. Price is certainly fair. It's kind of that gap in pricing too. It's one of the weirder pricing slates. You got all the guys at the top, then you kind of got that little middle range, and then a bunch of cheaper options. So I think he's intriguing. Again, not my favorite target in the game, but certainly has some captain appeal with his upside.
Yeah, Svetlana was asking over 2.5 catches for Cooks as a prop. I'll tell you, that's a little bit rough, man.
It's about where it should be. So that one, yeah.
I mean, they target him like as mentioned in the chat. They do target him around the goal line sometimes in the end zone. Yep. Other than that, he doesn't get a whole lot, man. So that's a rough one. But let's see here, seeing some other stuff. Okay, here's one for you from Javier. How much fact did Dallas last played on Thanksgiving? So they've had some extra time and they're at home. They got to stay at home this whole time. How much extra advantage is that with that rest? Small, medium, large, advantage-wise?
I'll say medium because some teams would take advantage of that and it would make sense. Other teams you could see really come out flat. And I think both of us are in the camp of not huge fans of Mike McCarthy. So what is this team? Are they still fighting? Are they still looking at this as we're still alive? Or as the rest kind of they come out and they're flat. So I'd say medium impact. Really depends on the team, the coach. Here, I'll give it a low to medium rating.
Fair enough. Got some more questions. Guys, do hit that like button. Yeah, we do appreciate that. If you could hit that like button, it all helps out. Better pick Brown on a high-scoring team or Dowdle versus a team that can't tackle? That's a good question. But Chase Brown's a straight-up monster, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brown is just the better player right now. Dowdle's been a nice story, and again, both getting sizable workloads. But Brown has shown just an unbelievable ceiling. Like in any game script, what happens if the Cowboys are down? Do we see more Zeke? Do we see more Lubke? Like that's the little bit of an issue with Rico Dowdle. We don't have that with Chase Brown. Competitive game, they're playing from ahead. He's probably smashing or highly involved. When they're down, he can be that pass catching back as well.
FanDuel Flex. Would you rather have CeeDee Lamb or T. Higgins?
Higgins. I'm having a hard time with CeeDee Lamb. He's going to get targets. He's going to get his receptions. But what we've seen is kind of middling results. Does he have that blow-up potential that we know he has with Cooper Rush? And that's my issue. We have not seen that. Doesn't mean it cannot happen. I'm not telling you not to play CeeDee Lamb. T. Higgins, to me, just the much better option tonight. Cheaper, much better offense, big playability. Joe Burrow, just a lot more in his corner tonight.
Yeah. Let's see. Is Cooper Rush at captain chalky? I don't know how chalky that is, but
I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I mean, you never know. He could fall into the right game script and, get his 300-yard bonus, and all of a sudden you're looking up. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be that chalky. There's too many good players in this game for a guy like Cooper Rush to be chalky.
So and there's another one, Rush as MVP on FanDuel. If it's a Bengals onslaught, that sometimes that's another way to build. Is just because the team scored 40, you could have this guy playing from behind and just we've seen Dak do it. Chop, how many years playing from behind? Also, in the end of the night, he's got 470 passing yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns. So don't hate that at all. He's not my favorite captain, but there's certainly viability there in that Bengals stack with a Rush captain playing from behind. I like that. As long as the build makes sense. We've talked about this for decades. Does the lineup build make sense? Can you tell yourself that story? There's a story behind that. I can get behind it.
Let's see. Jim wants to know, is Tolbert and or Hudson the lowest you should go on value? I'm supposing that's DraftKings. Ooh, what's the lowest you'd go down there in the salary range?
I was a little surprised to see Tolbert down at 2,800. I think that could lead to a little bit more elevated ownership. He's probably more of a 4,000 type player, should be right in there with the kickers, things like that, defenses. So I think it's going to elevate his ownership higher than it should be. But he is, to me, the best play down there. There's not a ton down there I like, and I don't think you need to dip down there, but he's intriguing. Hudson is just okay to me. Again, very boom bust. Gesicki's still the guy there. So out of the two, I do prefer Tolbert.
All right. So there's a couple people commenting on CeeDee Lamb in the chat and if he's healthy and all this other stuff and what happened to him on Thanksgiving. Listen, I've watched a lot of Dallas football. I've watched a lot of football, period, in my life. I didn't really used to subscribe to it a long time ago. I'm starting to think this stuff over. If a guy's actually no offense to anybody, if a guy might be doing some stuff on purpose for whatever reason, I'm not saying he's Pete Rose in it, you know what I'm saying, but doing some stuff. And CD, some of those balls he dropped on Thanksgiving, it looked like Tank City on purpose. I got some money on the Giants here or the under, and this is how we're going to roll. Not saying he did. Certainly not saying that. Don't want that getting back to CD. I know he listens to the show all the time, but it looked rough, man. He dropped some balls right in his hands. I don't know. His mind wasn't in it. Let's put it like that. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if he comes out focused tonight and catches everything thrown his way and they target him a bunch. So we'll see how it plays out, though. Let's see. You know what? Before we got about 5 minutes. Let's pull up the SimLabs real quick and do some work here on SimLabs. And Beer, you have any special settings you like tonight on SimLabs?
I ran it earlier and it stayed mostly where it had it. Again, sometimes I like to move it a little bit. I want to move upside up some. I see you're already on that. So and then maybe correlation a little bit up. Those are always a little low in my opinion. So it's a
good correlation night with Burrow being so good and all that good stuff. So I get that. Settings, we're always in large field. The results range, we're in the medium range. I want a wide range of results. I'm gonna make it pop 100 lineups out real quick because it does it so fast anyway. And we'll see what it gets us. And what kind of ownership? Sometimes you don't even have to play one of these lineups. You can just use the exposure.
I love the exposure tab. That's just show me what is it looking at the most and kind of work from there. So it's not religion. You don't have to go by it, but it's kind of a quick synopsis of everything.
And it's telling you a story here. The 3 highest guys in the captain are all Bengals, and the top 2 are the 2 big Bengals pass catchers, followed by Chase Brown. It's telling you, when I build a lineup now in large field, my captain, I probably need to be thinking about a skill player from the Bengals. That's like, you pick whatever you want, but it probably needs to be along those lines, something like that. You can see where, some of the guys we talked about earlier, Cooper Rush and captain didn't like it. I kind of know why, but you can see it's right there. So yeah, I like that. Our guy Jake Ferguson's right there, up there with those Bengals guys. That's the Sims' favorite.
So that's what I was
Cowboy.
going to say. You're absolutely right. That shows you, okay, this is what I should be. But remember, it's also showing you what a lot of other people are going to be doing. And we're going to see a lot of Chase, Higgins, Chase Brown, Burrow in that captain spot. So nice to see Ferguson. It's not an overwhelming percentage, but, the highest rated Cowboy in there makes me feel good about that pick. And I agree. Again, lots of paths. I know the injury. A lot of people shy away too. Guys coming back from injury. I want to see how it looks. And there's just been so many targets to the tight end against a team that's been terrible against the tight end.
Yeah, we're going to get into him more in a little bit, but you take a look, the very first lineup it popped up was something like that. Ferguson and captain with Cooper Rush throwing him the ball, and then the run back was all Bengals and all good Bengals, and that you could afford Burrow T and Chase because Ferguson is cheap enough in that. Something like that looks really, really nice tonight. But Beer, I do want to go here. I want to go to Splash Sports and do a pick for the people.
All right.
So if you guys, if you haven't checked it out, it's another player prop site. I know you got a lot of choices out there with player props, but Splash Sports is in the business now. It's called Quick Picks. You can see it. It's up here on the tab. Quick Picks is what you got to go to. Honestly, they've got good lines. Like the lines just won't move. I'm telling you, I've said it last week that when somebody puts in something on another site, that line moves. Boom. It's moving in 30 seconds. You got to be quick to the draw. They're a lot slower over here. They will give it time to marinate. You'll get those good lines for a lot longer, and you just got to shop around a little bit. So, I got one picked out, but I want to go to you first. Make sure I don't steal your pick. You have a prop tonight that you really like?
I have a few I like, so we can go back and forth here and hopefully give the people.
Listen, I'm putting my money on this, Beer, so don't give me don't give me your 10th best pick. I want you.
I got 2 to 3 that I really like. So
okay, what you got?
Right. First one, I'm going with T. Higgins receiving yards. As long as it's in that 71-ish range I've been getting all day.
It's up there now, 77.5. He's been climbing all day.
Oh, boy.
I tell you what, we are only about an 8-yard discrepancy between him and Chase. Would it be time to jump on the Jamar Chase ship?
Yeah, says because I was in at 70.5 and 71.5 on him. So I still think he goes over this number, but to get the worst number out there. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go to my other boy. I like that number on Jake Ferguson. I mean,
I already had him.
All right, I'll give it. You got that one. I do like Chase Brown's receiving yards as well. It's been very involved, or a combo if they rushing and receiving yards for him is in play as well.
We'll go Chase Brown. I put Ferguson highlighted for a lot of the reasons we've been talking about. But amongst that research that doing on this game today, boy, you notice when we expect Joe Burrow to have a pretty good game, right? Like the passing yards prop, everything is really good. It's high. Everything points in his direction. When you look at his good games this year, yes, he supports a receiver, maybe 2 receivers, Brown and or Higgins, or Chase, Jamar Chase and or T. Higgins, and you get the running back as it. But on the flip side, those run backs, tight end ones against Cincy, when Joe Burrow blows up, tight end ones are just a gold mine in those run backs. So I'm thinking Joe Burrow has a good game. So I'm thinking Jake Ferguson, hopefully he's not limited coming back from any kind of injury here. But tight end ones have been really good against Cincy in those big Joe Burrow games. So I'm down with that. I got a 2-teamer right here. Do you have anything else that you could throw on here that makes sense?
The Chase Brown, either the receiving yards or the rushing receiving combo. And while you're looking for that, I'm going to rap some more about Ferguson. Cincinnati, 3rd most DraftKings points allowed, 2 tight ends, 2nd most FanDuel points, 2nd most touchdowns allowed. And over the last couple of weeks, we've seen Schoonmaker and Span Ford 27 targets to those guys over the last 3 weeks. So you're talking 9 targets a game to the tight end position. Now you mentioned it. Does Ferguson come back and see all the work? Do they still mix some of these guys in? I would expect him to play a pretty big role tonight. So 9 targets a game from Cooper Rush. Bad defense. I'm gonna continue to sing the praises here, and not just because he went to Wisconsin, Chop. That's only a little bonus. I leave my homerism to the side. I think he's a phenomenal play tonight.
Fair enough. All right, let's get to the main course here. We're going to get out of here right after this, but we can't leave without doing the Fill It in the Plums play of the night. So, Beer, the floor is yours.
I have 2. So I'm gonna turn the floor back to you because I have 2 guys that I really like tonight. I don't know that you'll take either of them, but I don't want to take your guy here when I have 2.
All right. Well, I feel kind of weird saying Jake Ferguson because we just talked about him so much, but that was my guy.
There you go.
You know, that's my guy. Like, I think that for all the reasons we've said throughout the show, everything points towards a tight end being a good play in this game against Cincinnati. Everything points to that. And Dallas doesn't have a lot of tight ends. Like, when they faced Baltimore, you got to do a guessing game. Is it Andrews? Is it Likely? Well, guess what? It was the third tight end one game that caught 2 touchdowns or had a big game against Cincy. There's a lot of teams like it. With Dallas, when Ferguson is playing, there's one guy. It's Jake Ferguson. Everything supports him having a pretty good game tonight. He's cheap enough. I like the props. I like him in DFS. My plums play of the night is Big Jake Ferguson. Who you got?
All right, you ripped one of my plums off, so I'll give you the other one here. I do really like Ferguson. He's definitely my favorite play. He's cheap. I see Dean asking about Zeke and Lubke. Dean, just play Ferguson, and then you're fine. You can layer the lineup however you want after that. So that's the way to go instead of going all the way down to some of those cheap guys. I'm going to go to the Cincinnati side. I'm going to give you T. Higgins. Since you took the Ferguson play, those are my 2 favorite plays in this game. I've already told you all the reasons. I love Ferguson, Higgins. Both these teams, middle of the pack against wide receivers, nothing alarming, but we've seen Dallas give up some big games. Focus is always on Jamar Chase first. You got to focus on Chase Brown. Not to say you don't on T. Higgins, but I think he'll have some advantageous matchups. If he gets matched up with Diggs, we know he loves to try to make the big play, try to make the interception. Could see him getting burned for a long one here. So Ferguson, I will echo those sentiments. T. Higgins, feeling them both in the plums tonight, Chop.
Honestly, guys, I think there's some good offense in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that could have been plums play of the night when this thing's all over with. So tons of options out there. Again, hey, we appreciate you tuning in. You got about 24 minutes to make your last-minute adjustments here. Chat, great chat tonight. Very active. That's what we need every night. We're going to be back on Thursday doing this thing again. That's what we do. So, guys, until then, for Beer, always joining us here now every week. We appreciate that. TJ behind the scenes, working overtime, TJ behind the scenes. I was your host, Chop. Good luck in those GPPs. Until Thursday, we're out of here.